Mr. Buller Surprise right here at the School of Liberal Arts Temple. Ready to give a nice speech on mass incarceration and masculinity. Y'all know what it is. Let's get it. Elevator, 8th floor. Elevator, 8th floor. All right over there. Hello. Yeah, I'm coming up right now to the 8th floor. All right. So, as y'all see it, from a prison cell to these universities, delivering the message. And trust me, y'all, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be dynamic because how many of y'all get out of prison and get to come to the schools, colleges, and deliver the message? Let's change the script, man. We owe this to our people, our young bucks, our community. Let's get it. Count time. Y'all know what it is.
How you doing?
Hello.
How you doing?
How are you? I'm Gia. I'm the one who interviewed you initially. We're going to be over here, but I'm going to take you back into the office first to talk to my professor. This is Dr. J, my professor. Pleasure to meet you.
Same here. This is my videographer.
Joey DeVille.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Intern.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Please have a seat. I'm just going to grab a cup.
Joey DeVille, intern.
Nice to meet you.
This is actually not where we're doing everything. This is just how we're doing
What's your name?
Julia.
Julia.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Yes.
Do you guys want any water?
How you doing?
Here, you can put yourself where you need I didn't know if you were going to say it. Thank you. Hopefully you had some time to work in your groups. Thank you in advance for my Men and Masculinities class. Thank you for submitting your questions. Welcome to Rich Shore's class, Sociology of Law. Raise your hand if you're a social law student. Awesome, welcome. And obviously the rest are Men and Masculinities. So, a couple of quick announcements. I will introduce everyone, but just to be cognizant, parts of this are going to be recorded. If you don't want to be on camera, most of it is going to be focused up front, but if you don't want to be on camera, just raise your hand, let Joey, our videographer, know, and you don't have to worry about any of that. The way this is going to work is we're going to do some chit-chatting, open things up for a smaller conversation, larger to the group. So without further ado, I would like to welcome David Luis Suave Gonzalez. Give a round of applause. Taking time on Monday night. Mr. Gonzalez, how do you prefer to be referred to? How much like Suave? Okay. Just checking. Hopefully many of you have listened to the podcast, read the articles. Suave was incarcerated as a juvenile lifer when he was just 17 years old and served 30 years here.
31 and a half.
31 and a half years at Graterford Prison here in Pennsylvania. And so he is here with us tonight to share his story from start to current. And then we'll go and ask some questions. So without further ado, Suave, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about your story. And you can start right in the South Bronx and share where you want to begin.
My journey began in 1969. The day my mother gave birth. And I grew up in the South Bronx. Normal life, I thought. Where there was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs. I grew up next to a place called Huck's Point. So it was famous for everything. Prostitutes, drugs, everything. And I come from a household, single mother, 5 sisters, 1 brother. And, we thought we had a normal life. And it was cool. We did whatever we do in the Bronx. Everything we did, the Reagan days, welfare cheese. It was fun. But then one day,
my grandfather got killed while he was giving me a haircut. And that was the day that everything changed for me. Because I knew who did it, but I refused to say who did it. So the person that did it just went to jail for a couple of years, because in my mind, if I ever catch this dude in my life, I'm a killer. And
can I interrupt and just ask, how old were you when that happened?
12.
12.
I was 12. And I never forgot his face. So then my mother, mother was a hustler. She met a corrupt politician that was selling Section 8 apartments. So my mother was his connection to the people in the neighborhood. She would sell the application, you give her the money, she get you the apartment. FBI called up to her. She said, I'm going to Philly. And we ended up in Philadelphia. And my mother thought she was moving to Beverly Hills. But sadly for us, she moved to this place called the Badlands in Philadelphia, 10th and Indiana. And I was like, what the heck is this? It was like a war zone. I mean, in the 80s, it was like a war zone. We had a cemetery off the block, a school bus parked in the middle of the cemetery, and everything else was drugs. The whole block. I was like, shit, what the heck is this? but it was good for me because I was like, oh man, I could make some money. I was only in Philly like from June to December. That's the only time I spent in Philly before I got incarcerated. So I got involved with everybody, And the thing was, when you come from New York, you have that mentality where I'm from New York. So the people already knew that I wasn't from there. So it was easy for me to infiltrate certain groups and be part of certain groups. Then one day, I decided to go out with a couple of people. Young man gets shot. Everybody running, we have a fight. Everybody running. Everybody go home. The guy that was running with me decided to go to his mother and tell his mother, oh yes, Suave did it. Now I grew up in the Bronx with the cold of the street. I said, I'm not telling on nobody. They offered me 5 years. And I said, I don't know who did it. I don't know who did it. Y'all the police, y'all should know. So I ended up going to trial and ended up getting life. I did not know what life was. I'm thinking I'll be home in 4 years. It took me like 10 years to realize what a life sentence meant in the state of PA. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die in prison. And in them 10 years, I was like fighting. I had to. I was fighting, selling drugs. I was doing everything that I wasn't supposed to do because I felt that if I just be a regular person in prison, somebody was gonna take advantage of me. I was a juvenile in a men's prison. So I was forced to get out of character and say, you know what, I'm gonna do this time the way I want to do it. And that caused me to end up in solitary confinement for 7 years. 7 years in solitary confinement. And I remember I was telling Joey one time, I remember when I got up at Camp Hill prison, I'm going to commissary. And this dude stood behind me, and he stood real close, put his private part behind my back. And in a prison setting, when that happens, that's a test. You either react a certain way, or by the time you get back to the cell block, somebody's gonna try to rape you. That's just how it went in the 80s. So I went back to the cell block and got a toothbrush. Now I don't recommend this to nobody, not even at home. Don't try this at home. Got a toothbrush, got some razors, melt them in the razor. When they opened the doors, I went to his cell. And we started fighting, and I ended up cutting him 33 times. And that was the moment where, in the prison system, everybody knew that if you fuck with Suave, you got something else coming. So people left me alone. They was like, he's crazy, And to me, it was like, I didn't want to do that. I was forced to do that. Because if I didn't do that, who knows? what happened. So I ended up in the hole. They gave me a street case. I beat it. They dropped the charges because the guy was a known, what they call booty bandit in the prison. And they was like, he probably asked for it. So they dropped the charges. So now I'm thinking I'm tough. Go on. I get moved to Graterford. I end up going to solitary confinement for fighting with the guard. I'm in solitary confinement. I don't know how to read. I don't know how to write. And I'm like, shit, what the heck? How am I gonna get out of here? So I met an old guy that was in solitary confinement like 30 years. Now I could go to commissary, he couldn't. So I tell him, yo, I'll buy you some cupcakes if you show me some words. And he began giving me words and, and that's how I learned how to read and write in solitary confinement. I get out, I take my GED, try 7 times, pass, sign up for Villanova. The professor laughed like, you gonna sign up? Yeah. Graduated with a 3.5 with a bachelor's degree. To the point where today I'm being recommended for a PhD from Villanova. So, yeah, that was my journey in prison. Go on and on, but I want some questions.
Well, can I ask a quick follow-up? Just because I know part of the story and I want that out there. When you learned to read and write, can you talk about that relationship of your mom sending you letters and everything that went?
The reason that I learned how to read and write was because my mom used to write me letters and I couldn't read them. And I used to have other inmates read the letters for me through the cell bars, and people would laugh, oh, you don't know how to read, that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons I learned how to read and write.
So I have a bunch of questions that we'll start off with. So here, Juliet and Gia, would you like to start off with one of your questions?
Yeah, so when we listen to your podcast, and your podcast, you talk a lot about the lifestyle and like what it kind of meant for you and what it kind of means for being a man. And I'm just wondering what were the messages that were given to you about what it meant to be a man within that lifestyle, and how did that affect you kind of going forward?
I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was the call of the streets all the way. And, mans ain't supposed to cry. Do the crime, do the time. And if you were somebody that did it and then you get caught, you bite the bullet. So to me, it meant everything at that time. When you were a young buck, it meant everything. It meant that you're not going to break me. You're not going to see me cry. None of that stuff. And that was like the bad message. It's a bad message.
Yeah.
Because the people I protected, none of them sent me a Christmas card, birthday card. They all forgot about me. Here I am protecting somebody with the call of the street. They never even say hi to my family out here.
Yeah.
So that call of the street is trash. That's bullshit. Yeah. It don't exist. I think I was the only one in the state of Pennsylvania that was serving a life sentence for somebody else. Because all the guys that I met used to tell me if it was me, man, that guy would have been done. He would have been fried. Yeah. And if I have to do it again today, it'd be a different outcome.
So another thing you talk a lot about in your podcast is your relationship with your mom and Maria. Can you tell us a little bit about what your relationship with your mom was like and why she was such a hero figure for you?
Because my mom was like my mother and father. My mother gave us everything. And although we knew we was poor, we never went hungry. We always had clothes. We always had a place to stay. Whatever we need, my mom did. However she got it. My mom was a hustler, So it was like we wasn't going to bed hungry. It wasn't going to be Christmas and we ain't had something under the Christmas tree. And what I mean by that is my mom did things that, she probably should have never done. But she did it. She did it for her family. She took care of us. And that's the relationship I got with my mother. I still love my mom, even though she's been dead since 2009. Yeah.
So I'll ask a quick follow-up to that. So since you recognize your mom as one of your heroes
Yes.
and such a guiding light, In the absence, she was mom and she was dad. So in the absence of, who were your father figures then?
My father
besides your mom holding that space.
My father figures was the drug dealers, the pimps, the people that I thought had influence in the community, the people that used me because I used to like to fight a lot. I used to like to carry guns. So some of the old heads used to take me under their wing. So I thought they was father figures. They was really using me. Yeah. Because back in the days, in the early 80s, if you was young, you caught a case, they let you go the same day. They take you down to 1801 Vine Street and let you go. Now they charge you up and keep you forever. But back then they just call your mom, come pick them up, give me a court date. Those were my role models.
At what point did you realize, wait a minute, these guys are using me?
After I went to prison with a life sentence.
Yeah.
When I started reading, when everybody else was getting mail and commissary money and I ain't had nothing.
Yeah. What are some of the lessons that you learned from these men, in terms of how to be a man?
Never trust another man. And I mean that in a good sense. If that person is out there doing every illegal thing that you can imagine, that's not somebody you want to trust. It's really not, and there's other male figures out there that we could trust and follow that will guide us the right way. But a lot of time when you come from the community where I come from, those are the only things that we see. That's what we want to be like.
Right.
We want the name brand. We want to be fly. We want to be like them. So we gravitate towards them. And that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not it, because that guy right there is the same person that will tell on you first if you get the chance. Yes.
Do you think that you've been able to change these narratives with the work that you're doing, while still holding space for the real lived experience of these boys and men?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I tell people, I went to prison when I could have been out in 5 years. Yeah. But let me say this, because I didn't know how to read and write, I couldn't read the deal that they was offering me. So I refused. I'm not doing 5 years. And again, in my mind, I was doing the right thing for the streets, for the culture. Yeah. You're not telling. And when you go into prison, that looked good for a couple of years. But after that, when you're rotting away in prison, it's like, did I really did this? No, I want to go home, Because trust me, when you 16 and 17 and you turn 27 in prison, and then you turn 37, and then you turn 47, and you and there's no light at the end of that tunnel, and you start thinking about those decisions. Yeah, and that's what I did. I was like, oh no, this can't be the end.
I have a quick follow-up to that too. In the podcast, or just now, you said you're going for a couple of years. That's it looks good. In the podcast, you talked about how growing up, going to prison, it seemed like it was almost like a rite of passage. You went in, you got some muscles, you came out, maybe you had some more respect, or women were more interested in you potentially, or there was more of a reputation. Can you talk a little bit about what prison kind of signified? If I'm not explaining that right.
I mean, when I was growing up, I used to go visit my stepfather in Sing Sing in New York. And that was I'm going to prison to see the tough guys. You went to prison in my neighborhood and came back out. You was like a star. It was like the rappers nowadays. You had credibility. You was like the star. People give you stuff, and they treated you with honor. And I was like, damn, that's what I want. That's what I want. And since I was small, I used to get these fake tattoos, put them on and act tough. But when it happens in real life, that's not it. I found out, I tried to get one tattoo in prison. I found out that I was scared of needles. Seriously. That's why I'm not tatted or none of that. I found out I was scared of needles, man. I found out that I was claustrophobic. I found out that I can't spend the rest of my life in a cell with another man. So, you know, I start finding all these things. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But it's too late. It's too late. You know, now you got to do the time, and if God wants you out, he's going to probably get you out. If not, you're going to die in prison. Because in the state of Pennsylvania, life means life till you die. And when you die, they cuff you up to the bed, and then the outside doctor got to come and declare you dead. They cuff you up and shackle you up again before they take you out and give the body to your family. So, and witnessing that, I was like, nah, it gotta be a better way for me. I can't see my ending in prison being dead in prison.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Well, go ahead, June.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the men that you knew at Graterford Prison, what you learned from them, what their lives were like before incarceration, and similarities or
Oh man, I
differences?
met plenty of good people. People that made some mistakes, people that was innocently, falsely accused, wrongful conviction. As a matter of fact, one of my friends that just spent 30 years is about to come home like in another week. Just got exonerated. This was the guy that really pushed me to get through college. Right now, you're not gonna quit. There was time I wanted to quit. I'm doing like what I'm gonna do with a degree. And he was like, no, we're gonna finish that. We're gonna finish that. So I met plenty of good people, and I met plenty of old heads. That was like, nah, you going to school, you gotta slow down. There was an old head that really saved my life. Cause I was on a mission. I was really on a mission because I was too scared to commit suicide. So in my head, if I robbed such and such and such and such, he might stab me, I might die and beat the system. A lot of people do that in prison. But that never happened. There was an old head that took me one day and he said, bro, you gotta stop. Somebody's gonna kill you. Cause I used to take people's commissary and rob their cell. You know, I thought I was a gangster in jail. And he gave me a radio, and the radio had like 3 stations: Power 99, WDAS, and WHYY. And I'm like, oh man, oh. So I put WHYY and I hear Maria. That was my first interaction with Maria. That's how I was like, damn, we got a Hispanic on radio? Yeah, who's this? And I'm thinking Maria's like this big person, and she's like 5'1", like 70 pounds. I was like, okay, you don't sound like the voice. So we invited her to the prison. She came, and that's how I met her.
Yeah. I think going back to Julia's question about your mom too, she also asked about Maria. So can you tell us a little bit about your now decades-long relationship with Maria?
Oh man, it's ups and downs. It's ups and downs because in prison, you know, it was only me calling her. She could never call me. I can't visit her. So it was like a one-way friendship. Come home, you know, I'm running around. I don't have time to call Maria like she wants. And it's like, what the heck are you? Why you don't call me? And there was times when we had these real needed conversations where I took offense to when we was doing a presentation in Chicago, and she said we was really never friends. And I'm like, what? We was never friends. That shit hurted me. But then I understood it that she could never call me. I could never go visit her. You know, it was like, I knew where he was at. She said, every Christmas, so I sent him a Christmas card. Yeah. I knew he was going to be there for life. And when you think about it, you know, that's true. Yeah. That's true. You know, we was never friends. It was a source. I was the source and she was the reporter. And I used her, you know, to gain certain access in the jail, to create programs, to run scholarships. And she used me to get stories. You know, I was the source, she was the reporter. But I knew deep down inside that there was more than that. You don't spend 30 years calling somebody and visiting them not to be connected. And I knew we was friends when the first time I went to her house. Not in the office, in her house. With her kids. And her husband. And the little dog. And, so. But now it's challenging because I see the world different. Maria see it different. Maria is a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I'm just somebody that like to talk shit on the mic. I'm just somebody that like to talk on a mic and create a podcast. Maria is a real journalist. So when she do certain things, I'm like, I'm taking the shortcut. Just give me the mic. Joey, put the camera on. Let's go. I do podcasts. Maria do journalists. But at the same time, I respect what she do. And I think that she respect what I do. It's two different approach. She's coming from a textbook perspective. I'm coming from experience. I always tell her, you only know one way to cook oodles and noodles. I got 30 ways. I can do 30 dishes with it. You know one, which is putting hot water and eating that. I can do 30 things with oodles and noodles. And that's the difference. That's the difference with me and her. But we have a great relationship. I'm not gonna say it's all so gravy because it's not. We do a lot of fighting. The good thing is that I don't have to fight her husband. He's like 6'5". So, but we do a lot of. You gotta understand. I'm a producer for her company now. She's kind of my boss, but we also work together because I'm a producer. So it's like I have a lot of ideas. She got a lot of ideas. It's keeping the respect.
Can I ask about, I thought it was such a moment in the earlier episodes of the podcast when you talk about getting that Christmas card from her that first time and what it meant to you. Can you talk a little bit about that Christmas card and how you felt and why that was such a kind of unique moment?
It was special because when you're in prison and you're serving life, like the first 2 years, your family probably going to be there. 3rd years, people start dying out. 4th year, you on your own. And I was in prison for decades, and I got a twin sister. My twin sister never sent me a birthday card, never sent me a Christmas card because she said that she forgot she had a twin brother. That's the only way she could deal with it, with me being incarcerated. I got it. But Maria and her staff used to send me Christmas cards and birthday cards every Christmas. I knew that at a certain time I was going to get that card. And I still got them to this day. I seen her kids grow up in pictures. So I met them in person. It was special. It was like it gave me hope that somebody in the world knew who I was, and I wasn't totally forgotten about.
Yeah, and is that what you essentially felt like in prison?
Yeah.
You just felt forgotten about.
Yeah. You talk a lot about like how you have your feelings of being hurt, of being misunderstood. You talk about what it means to you to get those Christmas cards, what it means to like give those Christmas cards to your other inmates. I heard in the podcast how you memorize their full names in order to send them to them. And I'm just wondering, where did you learn to care like that? And where did you learn that community?
My mother used to feed like all the addicts in the neighborhood, all the sex workers. They used to come to my house. My mom used to feed them. Got that from my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, staying on the subject of your mother, I remember in the podcast you said that your mother always thought that you would be a good writer, even before you knew how to read and write.
She always.
How did her belief in you affect your path and your journey to where you are now?
Say that again?
How did her belief in you affect you?
Oh, I wish she was here to see.
Yeah.
Because once I learned how to write in prison, I was ghostwriting books for all these urban fiction writers. They used to send me the books with a $500 money order. I used to write their books for them, like, keep it coming, right? And my mom used to always say, "You want to be somebody great? You want to be that?" Oh my God! All mothers say that to their kids, like even just to make you feel good. My mom was like, "You gonna be somebody," and my mom used to always tell me, "You want to come home in November." But she never told me the year. This was like 30 years ago. She never told me the year. I know it was November, but she never told me the year. But I did come home in November.
Yeah, your anniversary's coming up, right?
The
November
20th.
20th.
Yeah. This is a question from a student. It says, you spoken a lot about the impact that access to education had on your adult life, particularly while you were incarcerated. Why do you think this was so transformative for you? To what extent do you think your life would be different if you had a robust education at a younger age?
Oh my God, I probably would have never been locked up. You know, coming up, I was classified mentally retarded, IQ 56. That was the public school in New York just to put me out of the school and put me in special ed classes. And special ed classes in New York was like being in jail. Everything was in one class, same people, same teacher. You saw the same teacher for 3-4 years. Like, who would want to do that? The same teacher for 3 or 4 years. I'm like, oh my God, no. So I never had the chance that I had, and it's a shame to say this, I had more educational opportunities in prison than I did in the free world. And the prison education is very limited. But I have more in there than I did out here. Right? So when I got to prison, education wasn't a priority for me. I was like, I'm never going home. What the heck I'm gonna do with a GED or a high school diploma? Never going home. Like, but then I started learning how to read and write. And then Maria sent me all these books. She sent me boxes of books. My cell looked like this. No lie. I created these shells out of cardboard, and I had hundreds and hundreds of books in there that she used to send me. And I was like, shit, I'm about to start reading, right? And the more I read, the more I was free in my mind. Because I tell people, you could be physically in prison, but you could be free. You know, I taught myself how to be free in prison. And people thought, this dude is crazy. Because it happened overnight. I went to the hole for fighting with a guard, now I'm out. And I'm like, I don't want no trouble. I'm cool. I don't want to smoke weed. You crazy? But in my mind, I was like, my ignorance put me in jail. Education is going to get me out. It's going to get me out. And I used to tell the guys, I know I'm never going home, but I just want to be ready in case that door open. I just want to be ready. So I cleared my cell out. I painted the walls white. And the only thing I had up in my wall was my degree. I had no family pictures, nothing. And the guards used to look. They're like, is you all right? Now you got to go see the psych, because now they're thinking you want to commit suicide because you clean your cell out. And I was like, nah, I'm cool. I'm cool. And the reason I did that was because I didn't want to be in prison. I'm already in prison physically, but mentally I did not want to be in prison. And in prisons, a lot of us, we pick up the habit of becoming hoarders. We stack up the letters, we stack up the pictures, we stack up on commissary, and that make you feel good. Like, it's, this is your home now. I never wanted to make that my home. I wanted to make it as uncomfortable as possible for me. And people was like, well, you crazy. To the point where I put my TV out in the chair. Y'all can have it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Because I was like, nah, you're not going to keep me here. Because I really believe, because I started studying law, and I really believe I was following the cases from Florida. The Simmons case, and all these cases dealing with juveniles. And I was like, it's only a matter of time before they get over here. And people was like, this dude was crazy. 2012, it happened. Our great DA in the city, Steph Williams, said, no, we're not doing nothing for y'all. So we had to wait 5 years. 5 years till the United States Supreme Court came back and said it's retroactive. But we should have been out in 2012. But I say this. It gives us the opportunity to get our shit together. Because now people was like, oh my God, I gotta get a GED, I gotta go see parole. And these are lifers that never did nothing. Because when you're a lifer in prison, they do not let you take programs. Only 10% of that class could be lifers. So that means there's probably one lifer per every class that take a GED. We got 800 lifers in the jail. So now everybody wants certificates, everybody needs to participate. I already got my package done. I'm done. I just want to see the judge so I can get out. You know, so, and that's what I meant with by being ready on day one. You know, my transformation didn't happen overnight in prison. It was decades. You know, decades. I started an organization. I ran the organization. I created a scholarship. Raised a whole bunch of money for scholarships for people out here. Used to collect money to buy turkeys and clothes, and I wrote books. I wrote letters to all these fake politicians and letting them know, like, yo, I'm a human being. I exist. Some of them never wrote back, but they knew who I was because I used to write. You know, I'm a pain in the ass, so I was writing the same letter to people like 10, 12 times so I could get a response. And they just be like, we got your attendance letter, you know, thank you for informing us. but to me, that's what I needed. I needed that to feel like at least you know who I am. Because if somebody call you, he's going up for parole, you'd be like, let him out because he's a pain in the ass. And you know, so I did that. And I sacrificed a lot. Because there was a time in prison where if you look at me wrong, man, you had problems. Like you was gonna have some problems. If you talk that shit to me like you about that life, you gonna have to show me. Because we in a maximum security prison, right? Where people was getting stabbed, raped, beat down every day, just like in the street. You just couldn't walk in Graterford Prison and act like you was tough. You had to prove that shit to people. And here I am in the prison with all these people wilding out, trying to be like, oh, let's talk about this. Let's find some healing. You know, like, and people was like, what? Then you got two dudes with knives ready to kill each other, and you're like, let's find some healing. Let's cook a chi-chi, let's talk about it. And based on who I was, people was like, all right, man, let's talk, you know. So we was able to stop a few people from getting seriously hurt. And adding more time to their time already. You know, we made it safe in Graterford Prison for young guys to come in and do their time peacefully without having to worry about being abused by other people. We did that. And the only reason we did that was because I understood. I went in as a young boy. And I knew that if I didn't cut somebody for touching me in my back, you know, I knew what comes with that. So, did I want to cut that dude? Hell no. Hell no. But did I have to? Yeah. And I blame the system for that. Yeah. Why? Because the system should not be putting kids in adult prisons. Period. They should not. It don't work. You know, I know people that went in with 1 or 2 years. They are now serving life in prison because of that. You know, so I was forced. Some of the stuff I was doing, it was because I was under the illusion I'm serving life and I'm never going home. So I'm going to do this time my way.
So a follow-up to that too, you know, at what point, you know, you talk about like there's these two guys with knives and you're like, let's talk about some healing. At what age or when did you start to realize that you had influence and you became a leader in your community and you could get guys to put down the knives and start to talk to each other? Like how old were you when that started to happen or you started to have some of these realizations about how you could...
I knew that very young, like when I had like 10 years in. Because I was quick to fight with the guards. I was quick to be in the middle of shit that don't have nothing to do with me. But I was like to defending other people. And in prison, when people know that you would put in work, what they say, put in work, they're not going to mess with you. They're not going to mess with you. Especially if you're a lifer. It's like, I'm going home in 5 years. He's never going home. You got that. And that's how it goes. But you know, I became the president of the organization, the Latino organization. We had like 1,500 members that at any given moment we could say we're not going to eat. oh, we're not doing this. And nobody would come out their cells. Then the superintendent would come down and get your guys, tell them we're going to do this. And I decided I'm not going to use that for negative stuff. I'm going to use my organization for educational purpose. Because I knew that if you're a lifer, you cannot participate in certain activities. So we started creating dumb activities for other lifers. We convinced different colleges to come in and give us different courses, such as Inside Out, with Lori Pompo, she's from here, Villanova, when they cut the Pell Grants off, we convinced Villanova, damn, we should be going to school. So they gave us presidential scholarships, but they did that through the organization. So I was like, you know what? You want to be part of this organization? You got to be in school, you got to have a GED. You want to be on the executive board, you got to have a degree. And being in charge of an organization in prison is power. I mean, because you're in direct contact with the superintendent, the deputies, with everybody that you need. If you ever go for parole or commutation, those are the people that make the recommendations. So you want them to know your face. And every time there was a fight on the block, we didn't involve the police. Like, what's the problem? Oh, he owed me a pack of cigarettes. Here you go, bro. Because if you fight on the block, that's 500 people that's getting locked down. Now I can't go to school. And I got my finals today. So we did that kind of stuff. And people started respecting it. People was like, oh, man. But they also knew that, yo, I'm not gonna be your cigarette store. That one is on me. The next one is on you, bro. So to us it was like taking care of the community, making sure that the young fellas didn't fall into the crack of the system and get lost. Because that's easy to do in the prison system.
Community is.
Just one quick question, because I've been dying to ask. You talk about lifers not being restricted to so many resources, and you beat the odds. You were on one of my favorite shows. I really want you to talk about it. How did you even get TED Talk to come to the inside of the prison and let you do a TED Talk? Please break that story down.
Because my name is Suave first. And that's on my birth certificate. So we read about TED, and we was like, imagine if we had one of these in the prison. And people was like, it would never happen. I was like, all we need is $1. All you need is $1 to get the license. And Graterford, we got money. We got cash money, whatever. The only thing we ain't got is credit cards. But we got all types of cash money. But we don't have $1. We have $10. So we wrote that, and our address to Graterford was P.O. Box 244, Collegeville, PA. You don't have to put Graterford. So we put Collegeville on the top, and P.O. Box 244. They wrote us back and sent us 10 licenses to conduct a TED. So we write a proposal, send it to the superintendent, and she was like, "How y'all gonna get the license?" I said, "We already got them. We already got them." "How the heck you get that?" "They sent them to us in the mail." "Hey, no, we already got it." So we convinced the commissioner of prison that this will be good for the DOC. Why? Because 10 years before that, the DOC came with a policy was they shut the media out from the prisons, from coming into the prison, because they did a VH1 video behind the music, and one of the guys in the audience, his victims saw the people. They made a big thing out of it, so they stopped the music program. They stopped letting the media in. And until the TED Talk came about, nobody knew what was going on in the prisons. And there was like a lot of programs. Graterford was a program prison. We had the vets, we had the NAACP, we had the mural arts, which I was part of creating, the restorative justice program. I mean, we had so many programs that I told the commission need to be highlighted that speak to the rehabilitation of the people. Because Graterford went from a real violent prison to a rehabilitation prison, where it became the only jail in the state of Pennsylvania where you could go get a college degree. So he said, okay, only if you participate in it. And I was like, I don't want to participate in that. So the guys was like, no, you got to do it. So we had a casting, call out, and we did the first TED Talk in the state of Pennsylvania inside the prison. And then we convinced him that he should let it go down in the women's prison. And that's how that came about. Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you a quick question, Bobby. I wondered about your adjustment after 31 and a half years. And I teach a different class, but some of my students are here too, and we have been talking about reentry.
It's hard.
What did you do, and what was the hardest part of it, like socially or economically, or in what ways were you able to
I'm
adjust?
still going through it. I'm 6 years. November 20 will be 6 years for me, but I'm still trying to adjust. It's hard. For me, it was like learning the phone. That's the first thing. Learning the computer. Learning how to socialize with people on a human level and not be so defensive. Because in prison, you got to be like, you got to keep that image up. Like, don't mess with me, don't talk to me like that. You know, anything somebody say in prison could be taken the wrong way. And coming out, you have to be ready or willing to let that guard in if you want a job. You know, one of my first jobs was working at the 25th Police District. I came home, somebody decided, you could be a good case manager. What that person didn't know was that I'm still in a halfway house.
That's your old neighborhood too.
Yeah, I'm still in the halfway house, but I need a job, and I'm like, I'll go in the 25th district. You know, I get in there, nobody in there know that I got a beep on my foot. I just came home, and you want me to stand in roll call with the police every morning listening to this shit? I said, I couldn't do that. I left that job. I couldn't do it. Because I said, either somebody gonna find out I was in jail, or I'm gonna blow the cover up, because I couldn't do it. And I regret that. Why? Because if I still would have had that job, I probably would have never gone back to prison. But at the same time, they saved me when I went back to prison. You know, if y'all could remember from the podcast when they took me back. But adjusting is very hard. You have to rearrange your whole thoughts, your desires. Like, I still can't be in a big house. I still got my studio down Bronx, Susquehanna. Got a house, but I still stay in my studio. Because it's like a prison cell, you know, it's small, everything is there. Seriously, got a house, but I like being in my studio more than in my house. I still keep a light on, a little night light on. You know, if it's completely dark, I can't sleep. I still, when I buy new clothes, to get a little marker and like put a little dot, because I don't want my socks to get mixed with my daughter. It's shit like that you be like, you know, or you walking in a restaurant and you licking the spoon and put it in your pocket. I mean, it's funny, but that's what we do in the prison system. And you're looking at people, you question everything. Like, why is you doing that for me? What do you want? You know, and anything could trigger you. Anything could trigger you. I was at an event yesterday at a parting clinic, and had a vendor, some lady, and she triggered the shit out of me to the point where I got up. I'm like, Joy, I gotta go. I'm gone because I don't want to disrespect her, but at the same time, you know, and all it took for her to say, that's all that incarceration time you did. You know, I took that to me that was real offensive, and it triggered me to the point where I was like, if I stay there, I'm gonna say some shit back that you're not gonna like. And I am an administrator at community college, so I can't do that. So I just left. You know, and it's stuff like that that I don't think the outside world realized that, man, we like babies. I went to jail when I was 17, and in reality, I came out when I was 21. You know, even though I'm in the 50s, but I'm still 21 in the mind. I'm still trying to play catch up. And that's bad in re-entry. That's bad because in prison we live in a bubble, and we see the world from one perspective. Till you come out here and you be like, oh, it ain't like that no more. I go to the dollar store and the machine talking, and I'm like, I'm getting mad, like, what the fuck you talking to me? You know, and the lady's like, no, you gotta swipe the card. And I was like, what? Shit is talking to me. And I remember one time they had this robot, and it was following me in the store. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? I'm not stealing, you know. I was real emotional. And somebody came over and was like, no, that's just, you know, it's stuff like that that we don't know, you know, in the prison system. So we like, what? We react. And I'm learning to be sensitized because I was desensitized. Like, you do that in prison, like somebody died, okay, bury them. You know, like, I never shed a tear in prison. My mother died, never even cried. Because you can't cry in prison. Somebody see you crying, that means you're weak. You know, I come out here, now I watch a movie, I'm crying. Yeah, so stuff like that, it's hard. But it's a learning process, and it can be done. And it will be done because we have people out here that really care and not trying to take advantage of the situation. Because there is a lot of people out here that play on that, and you owe it to the community. Come and do this. They did that with me when I first came home. You know, I never had a chance to really embrace freedom. I came home, I thought that I needed to be married. I thought that I needed this and that. That landed me in prison a year to the day after I was home. Yeah.
What are, talking about reentry, what are some of the challenges that you faced that you've then conquered and you've been victorious? So what are some of your victories over the last 6 years of getting readjusted?
Jobs. Even though I came home with a degree from Villanova, you know, I got the interview, but the minute they found out I served decades in prison, it was like, oh, we're moving towards a different direction. Or you don't qualify, or you overqualified. And I remember when the pandemic hit, I was hired by Bodessa. And they put me through the training, and I was like, yes, I got a good job. The day I was supposed to go to work, they sent me a letter. They tell me, due to your past, we're gonna rescind the office. Now I don't have a job, the pandemic just hit. I'm like, what? Is y'all for real? And that's when I needed to show them that I study law too. So I took them to court because the policy is you're only supposed to go 7 years. The question is, have you committed a crime in the past 7 years? No. No, that's the question. The answer is no. But they went and checked the whole history. And I only got one conviction. It's not like I got a bunch of, it's the conviction that landed me in prison. But it should have never gotten that far at all. But because you want to be in my life, okay, you got it. Now, I took them to court and won. So they had to pay me a whole year's salary and pay my insurance for a whole year.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
And I would say that probably many of us in this room, if we'd been denied a job for a variety of reasons, we wouldn't have any idea how to have recourse against that if we felt like we were discriminated against.
Well, you know, I feel like this, like, if you've never been incarcerated, you're good. But if you ever been incarcerated or arrested, you know, it's all it takes is for somebody to be like, man, let me see what this guy got going on. It can't be truth. They do it at that. They do it at that. The only reason I know that I have a job at a university, at a college, is because I want to pull a surprise. Let's be honest. It's because I got an IDA award, which is like the Oscar in podcast. It's because I know the president's daughter. You know, it's because of that. It's not because I'm smart or he's the guy from no. Because I tried to apply for community college. They ain't even give me an interview. You know, so, but to me it's all right because now the door is open. Now the door is open. Now you don't have no excuse for not hiring another returning citizen. And this is what I tell my guys in my program. You know, it may look easy coming in here now, but it took work. It took work to create a program where we got 130 people, where we teaching college courses in the county prisons. That took work. And even to this day, people still look at me like, we're waiting for the fall. They're gonna be waiting a long time. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard because re-entry in the city is nothing but a referral system, I believe. A lot of these organizations get the big grants and don't do the work. It's the small people that you never hear about that do the work. For me, I had a guy named Roger Sipernet of Revenue. And this guy, I used to try to hide from him because he used to come pick me up every day, 5 o'clock in the morning in the halfway house, take me places. When I first came home, I'm like, Roger, I mean, it was good for the first week, but after that, I'm running around the city with an older gentleman, white hair, and he's driving me around, and people was looking like, what's going on here? And he would get out, and I mean, he's like a father to me. But I was like, Roger, I'm cool, I got it from there. And he never gave up. He never gave up on me. He was the guy that picked me up from prison when I came home. And it's people like him that don't get the credit. Don't get the credit. Because there was time when I wanted to go back to prison. I was like, shit, I had it better than they than out here. There was time when I was in my studio, I had no food. Again, I'm going out to the dollar store, buy me all these oodles and noodles. Like I was still in prison. Peanut butter and jelly. I mean, I bought the survival. This is going to last me 30 days. And I used to break my oodles and noodles in half. And he would come over like, oh nah, we going shopping. Come on. You know, I don't have no family in Philadelphia. So, and then it's a pandemic, and I'm like, oh shit. I said, I can survive off with noodles and noodles. I used to cook pizza with them and show him how to cook. He's like, no, I go to the real pizza. They got Brothers Pizza down the block. But it takes people, it takes kindness, it takes other people to recognize people's humanity that, you know, I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, I was hoping.
She had a question there too. Sorry.
Yes, we can open it up to the larger room since. Yeah.
Well, you talked a little bit about how when you were first incarcerated, how you didn't really know like the deal that you had been given, and then you talk about how like later on you started really getting into law. So just like based off of that, like when you started learning a lot about the law and stuff and the legal system, what did you notice like were the flaws or the ways that like the system took advantage of you?
Well, the first thing I noticed was that I was never read my rights. I was never given a fair trial. I went to trial for half a day. I was trial convicted on half a day. I was never given access to the criminal complaint. I was never given access to the statements. I was never allowed to even see the witness that testified against me. The witness came in by themselves, said I did it, and I was never got that chance. And the attorney that I had was just no good. He was just no good. He was disbarred, right? So once I start finding that out, I start filing petitions to the court. And then it became a problem because the DuPont case happened. Remember the DuPont case? I forgot his first name.
The wrestling?
Yes,
wrestling,
yes.
yeah.
His case happened, and they gave him a mentally ill excuse. So once I started reading, I was like, hold up. How you gonna get DuPont this, but you telling me that I had a 56 and I was classified mentally retarded by one of your agencies, which is the school district. The school district said I was mentally retarded. I never said it, you said it. So this should be sufficient. So based on that, I got back in court. But they only kept me in court. They was never give me a decision. Oh, we need more, we need more. So I got all my medical records from the street, all my educational records to prove the case. That took me all the way to 2012. When the Miller case came down, they was like, well, you don't need this no more. You don't need this no more. I was like, okay, why not? Because we're about to let you go home now. So they make me an offer. At first, I didn't want to take time served. So I'm not taking time served. I don't want to be on parole for life, none of that. But then I was like, nah, I want to go home. Because you never know. I want to go home. So I said, all right, I take time served. Get out. We're doing more research. Now we're doing the podcast. Now we're digging for information. We're looking for witness to be in the podcast. We come up with the police report. Actually, I heard in episode 5 that they identified somebody else as the perpetrator, but they never gave that statement to my attorneys. You know, if that statement would have been given to my attorneys at the time, I probably would not be here today. We would be having this conversation. You know, and to me, it's all right. It's all right because I'm home, I'm free, and I can deal with it. But a lot of people can't. You know, there's not a lot of people. I don't think that in my lifetime, and I wish it would happen, we would see another formerly incarcerated lifer win a Pulitzer. It's not going to happen. And to me, that's crazy. Because when I accepted the Pulitzer, I said, Nelson Mandela had one of the best inspiring books ever. And they would not give him the Pulitzer. They would not give it to him. You know, what am I saying by saying that? What I'm saying is that sometimes we got to believe in the higher power, whatever that may be. I've never been religious. I never went to church in the prison. And I remember one time being in the hole. I was in solitary confinement and when my mother died. And I was like, man, fuck God. That's what I say. Excuse my language, kids. Don't repeat this at home. I said, fuck God. I said, you know, today I'm gonna fucking take my life. I'm killing myself. I had the rope and all that shit. And I said, if God fucking insists, you will stop it. I seen the guard coming, and the guard was like, what is you doing? I was like, nothing, just walk by. And I had to shit up the rope. And then like, I just felt something over me. And I heard my mother's voice. And she was like, you're going home in November. That's what she said. And I thought I was going crazy. I was like, shit, why the fuck I gotta hear your voice? And I said, I'll do it tomorrow. And the next day I seen the superintendent. And she used to always stop. She's a good friend of mine to this day. And I told damn superintendent, I've been in the hole long enough. What's up? She said, you want to go to population? And I'm like, man, no. She said, I'm going to let you go. I'm getting good reports. She let me go back to population. And when I got out, she gave me a single cell. She said, I don't want you to be with nobody. I want you to be by yourself. Get back acclimated, whatever you need. And I was like, damn, there probably is a God. There probably is a God. And from there, I was like, I'm going home. And people used to laugh, like, you never going home. I was like, I'm going home, bro. I'm going home. Because I studied the law. I studied all the cases. I studied all the cases. I had all the cases. And I was like, they're getting to PA. I'm going home. And when the Simmons case came out, where they ruled in Florida that you can't put a juvenile in prison for life, I was like, they're coming to PA. And when they came to PA, I was one of the first dudes that let go. Because there was no work. Everything was done. Everything was done. And then I get to the courtroom and the judge is saying, you set the bar this high. And I was like, no, can't do that. And she just looked at me like, I was like, you can't do that. Because we got hundreds of guys that got to come to this courtroom that don't even have a GED. Because for some reason, some of the judges thought that we have access to everything. We don't. I got my GED because I read an article and I wrote this school in Florida to let me take cross-finding courses. And since the jail was so lazy, they didn't realize that the material they was letting in was for a high school diploma. So that's how I took it. And then I started putting people on like, yo, you can get your GED faster this way. You know, but everybody don't get to do that. Everybody don't get to do that. And that's the messed up part. Because a lot of them people are home today, they can't even get jobs because they don't have GEDs. They don't have no higher education. And that's what the DOC does.
All right, so we've got like maybe 25 minutes left. I'd love for all of you to ask any questions you'd like. Go ahead.
I'm wondering, it seems like when you get into a lot of cases, especially of juveniles sentenced to life, the way that the trial was conducted would not hold up if those juveniles had a chance to take it back to court. I was wondering how many of like the people that you were friends with whose like cases you really knew, did you even feel like there was anybody who was a lifer who had like there was a solid case against them that couldn't have been argued in court? Do you know what I'm saying? Like that.
Oh no, I can guarantee you, I knew all 800 lifers in Graterford, and each in one of them cases, if you read them, you can find some flaws with them.
That's what I was.
They will not stand up to that.
Yeah.
And because, you know, again, we come from communities where we not taught law. We don't know law when we standing in them corners. We just stand in them corners and do what we got to do. Till we are put in situations that you be like, I didn't know they could do that. Like, I did not know that you get life if you with somebody that commit a crime. You get the same thing. I did not know that. And most of the time, the person that committed the crime is probably going to flip on you first. So it's who flipped first. Who gets to tell first, that's who gets the least time. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that if you're 13 in the state of Pennsylvania, you still can end up in prison serving life. You know, I'm thinking, they can't give me life. I'm young. Plus, I'm crazy, you know. And they was like, yeah, you the perfect guy that we going to give life to. You young, you crazy, you can't be rehabilitated. Those are the exact words the judge said to me. You would never be rehabilitated. And I'm like, huh? I used to write the judge. I wrote that judge for 10 years.
Who was the judge?
David Savage. They used to call him the hanging judge. Every case that went in front of him, everybody was serving life. And the DA was Roger King. Notoriously known for, I apologize to my community because I felt that a lot of the stuff that we see in the community is people that are trying to be like us. People hear our names in the street like, oh, I remember this guy, or my father knows this guy. And I'm like, yo, that's not the way we are, bro. No. You know, and I just felt that I had a responsibility to apologize to my community. You know, on my first day home. Not a month later. I want to do it on my first day home. Because this is the community where I'm coming to live. You know, so it was almost like asking for forgiveness, and at the same time, I'm here, you know, what can I do?
How was, what was the response or reaction from those students, from the people in that room?
They was shocked. That was like, why is you apologizing to us? Like, and you know, because a lot of time people don't understand the ripple effect that one crime has on the community.
Can you like expand on that and talk
Yeah,
about what the ripple effect is?
I live in Huntington Park. Huntington Park is a hot spot, you know, and I just felt like I just don't want to pop up one morning in the community and everybody like, where did this guy come from? Where you come from? So the best way to have everybody in that community was at the local high school. And everybody showed up, and they was there for Maria, not me, for real. She's the famous reporter, not me. But, you know, once I started talking and apologizing, some of the kids, you know, they was like, man, you probably know my father. My father's been incarcerated, and my father's still in jail. And I was like, damn, you know, this is why I'm apologizing, man. Like, because these are kids that are in the borderline of prison or death. That's the fact. And once I did that, man, they allowed me to keep going back and work with kids, and to the point where some of the kids used to get in trouble. They used to call me to talk to them, to go to the school. I used to leave my job and go talk to the kids. You had kids that was going through some real trauma situations where they wanted to buy their mother a Christmas gift, but they had no money. So I'm like, shit, I ain't got no money either, but whatever I got, let's go. You know, whatever I had, I'd go out and buy something for the, you know, just to let them know that somebody cared. Because that could be the determining factor whether that person go out, do some stupid shit and get killed, or go to prison. And I see some of them today, and they be like, oh man, I thank you, man. Thank you for saving my life. You know, that is the greatest feeling that you could get when somebody stop you in the street and tell you, you saved my life. You know, what do you say to that? You gotta be humble and accepted, and like, damn. Because we never know what we do would affect other people.
So one common theme I feel like we've talked about a lot over the course of this conversation has been time. And I'm really curious about how your perception of time has shifted over your life, if it has shifted.
Oh, it has. I don't have enough time.
And how time feels for you post re-entry.
I don't have enough time. Because, like, I'm involved with podcasts. I'm involved with school projects. I'm involved. I travel. Like, I wish we had another 24 hours to 24 hours. And it's so fast. Like right now I'm sitting here, but I've been up since Saturday. I ain't had no sleep yet last night at all, no sleep. You know, I'm up, I'm drinking coffee, I'm up, I'm on the go. And I'm grateful for that. Because in prison, time goes real slow. Like 1 hour in prison is like 10 hours. You'd be like, oh my God. Can you wait for that 9 o'clock count? Because you know that's when the guards leaving, the next shift comes, and then you be like, okay, 6 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna open the door. You don't even have to have a clock for that. You already know. But it goes so slow. It's like slow. Out here is like she said, we got 20 minutes. I'm like, we been here an hour already? Like, you know, it changed. It changed, but it's for the better. It's for the better. I always tell people I slept for 30 years. I slept for 31 years. I slept. I don't have time to sleep out here at all.
Speaking of time, we've got 10 minutes, and I would love to hear. I'm sure all of us.
I'm not listening. I'm here to y'all, all y'all questions.
Well, appreciate it.
Sure.
You know, obviously Philadelphia is going through it. You know, the city is hurting. You know, there are news stories every day. The pandemic. You know, there's lots of upheaval. Violence has increased. Like from your vantage point, you know, with community, with giving back, with like showing people that they are worthy, that they are cared for, what do you think needs to happen on like the micro level to the macro level here in Philadelphia?
We need to have more access to education for people coming home. We need to have, I think every university, every college in the city should have a reentry program that allow people to come get education after they come home from prison. Because it's been proven, statistics, the numbers don't lie, that when you have any form of higher education, you would not be going back to prison. That's facts. That's facts.
What do you think? So what do you think we can do to prevent the school to prison pipeline?
What we doing today? Having more conversation, real conversation. Because it's cool if I stand up here and say, masculinity is this and this and that. But it's different when I'm telling you from experience, like, this is how it really goes in certain communities. This is how it goes in certain culture. This is how it really happens. Again, I'm grateful for the support, the community support that I had when I came home. Because if it wasn't for them, I probably would have been back in jail for something else. Because there was time that, again, I ate oodles and noodles. Here comes this guy, a reverend, like, come on, we're going shopping. Oh, come on, I'm taking you to this. And, sometimes we need people to recognize, like, I understand. And not just look down at a person and embrace that person and say, you know what? I got an extra $10. Here you go. What's that for? Just whatever you want to go do. Or that phone call. Like when I called Joey at 12 midnight, he called me back within a minute. Within a minute, he called like, yo. It's that type of stuff that saves people's lives from going back to prison. It don't always have to be, I'm taking you shopping. The most important thing a person needs when they come home from prison is a support system. It's not clothes. It's not a house. It's not a car. It's a support system. If you don't have a support system, you can have everything else. That boat is going to sink. It's going to sink.
I think we've got time for like a few more questions. Oh yeah, there's some hands over there. Yeah, go ahead.
You talked a lot about like all the experiences you faced in prison, how you was face to face with like a lot of adverse situations. And I'm really curious to know is like how you kept your hope and like motivation through that, how you stayed strong through 7 years of solitary, how you pressed through all your studies despite all the challenges. How did you stay motivated?
Reading, man. I discovered reading, man. Reading took me out of prison. And every time I read a book, man, I remember I used to read a lot of books about Pittsburgh. So people thought I was from Pittsburgh. Because I knew like all these streets. And I talked to people like, yo, up here? And I was like, hey, you from Pittsburgh? But then, I developed the way for me to learn was memorizing stuff. So I used to read books and memorize damn near the whole book. And I realized that a lot of people couldn't do that. A lot of people could not do that. So that's what kept me studying, reading, music. Something that I ain't touch on. Should I touch on that, Joey?
Whatever you want.
I was one of the first people in the state of PA that recorded like a cassette. I still got it. Like anybody seen a cassette?
Yeah.
Like a cassette tape. And with music, because I love music. And we ain't had no instruments or nothing. We made all the instruments ourselves. And if you hear this tape today, it sounds like it was recorded in a recording studio. And it was recorded in a prison cell. But it sounds like it was in a recording studio. And to me, my inspiration comes from I had to survive. I did not want to be a victim to the prison system. Nothing. I did not want to be the victim. I did not want to die in prison. I used to see how they treat people when they pass away in prison. I was like, no. No, the minute they said you was dead, you had a group of guys that went in your cell and raided your cell, took everything. He don't need this, he don't need that. Yes. And I'm saying that's not going to happen to me. So, education really, really saved my life. Once I learned how to read, I was in my bag now, because these professionals say I would never learn how to read. Here I am writing books, and I'm like, what? I could do this. But it was education that kept me up.
My major is sociology, and something we talk about a lot is labeling theory, and we talk about how putting a label on something kind of makes it part of your identity. And I'm just curious, how you feel like being labeled a certain way, like being labeled like a student with low IQ, or being labeled like a convicted criminal, and these different labels that are put on you, how that affects kind of.
Oh, it was horrible, because I believe them labels. I became them labels. When I first started getting into education, I had a lot of doubts. Can I really do this? Maybe they was right. And every time I used to look at my medical records, I was like 56 IQ. Dang, that's low. I used to always tell myself, dang, that was low. But then you start believing, maybe it was true. Because nobody in my family, my immediate family, ever completed a GED or nothing. I'm the first one with a GED and high school diploma. The first one that went to college. So I'm like, it might be true. But then I'm like, who the fuck doctor wrote this, man? They should be, these doctors, once I started getting A's in Villanova, and when I graduated summa cum laude, I was like, what the fuck is that? Then they told me what it is, they put it in the degree. I was like, damn, I'm pretty smart. Somebody here messed up. Right? And then the more you read, you got to remember, for a lot of people, y'all start reading when y'all was kids. I started reading as an adult. I started learning information in my late 20s, almost 30s, That's when I started reading, which is not that long ago, right? So I started discovering things. I was like, huh? This is what this means? I was like, nah, these doctors had it wrong. And I kid you not, I went through 16 years of part-time studies in Villanova, because that's how long it takes to get a degree from them. 16 years, because it's only part-times. And in those 16 years, I never read their books. I never read a book, because I used to sit in class and memorize the professor's notes and write my papers right in class, and take them back and type them up. To the point where some of the professors just be like, how did you did that? Right? Because I could memorize their notes. And I was like, this is not a person with an IQ of 56. So I just started flipping it on them. I said, IQs don't vary. I still got a 56 IQ. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? Because they do this to our kids in urban schools. They put a label on you, and that's it, you off. Instead of just investing time, they get rid of you, put you in one of them special schools. Next thing you know, you're on your way to prison. And this is how we end up with mass incarceration. We're not giving the same opportunities that other counties have. If I would have been given that opportunity, I don't know where I would have been at, but it probably would have been jail. And I'm saying that to say that a lot of times labels are the most dangerous thing we could do when we put them on children, because we start believing them. We start believing them. And by the way, the person that killed my grandfather, I bumped into him at Lewisburg Penitentiary, Federal Penitentiary. He didn't know who I was, but I know who he was. Now I forgot that face.
I guess since education is clearly so important, we only have a few minutes left. But what are some of your favorite books?
My favorite book.
Or books that you just think of fondly, or you've reread, so many times, or books that you.
Mad Child in the Promised Land. That's one of the books I read that I still have. Maria and the Hulsa Speak to Gang Members, because that was the book that really got me into. I basically challenged. I didn't even know how to read or write. I heard in the podcast, I paid another inmate to read a book for me.
Yeah.
And I told her, when I learn how to read and write, I'm gonna write a better book. Because that's not the way it is. Again, she's a journalist, so she go into prison, get the story. That's life. That's not. Whoever was telling her that story was telling her bullshit. That's not how you live in prison. And that was the book that I used to graduate for my final paper. That was the book I used to use to learn how to write a complete sentence. That was like my guide to English. And from there, I read Malcolm X story. I read Nelson Mandela's book. I was reading everything. I was reading science books. I was reading books about aliens, and people be like, but what I was trying to do was get vocabulary, words. And what else? I've read a book on meteorology, because I knew the class was coming up, and I still failed. Couldn't pass that class. I had to take it again. But I was just reading, because in prison, it's so hard to get a book. So hard to get a good book. So you just got to read everything and see what you can find. And then the DOC had the brilliant idea to ban hardcover books from the prison. So all you can get is paper books. Then the urban novel Crave came out, and I was like, I could tell a story better than this shit. And I started writing, and that's when I wrote all my novels. I wrote all my novels on toilet paper in solitary confinement.
Wow.
Still got them. And one of the publishers that I used to ghostwrite for, they was like, man, you want to get published? And I was like, shit, yeah. And they start publishing my books. And, but writing, for me, was like the answer. Reading other people's books was my way of communicating with people. Because there were some books, man, that really was expressing what I wanted to say. So I just used to copy it, read it again, and how can I say this in my words? And every time the guy saw me in the prison, I was like, oh, he's going to try to sound intelligent. And the one thing that my people do is, he's trying to sound white. He's trying to sound white. And I used to be like, what that sounds like? What does that sound like? Because I believe that language carries a lot of weight. How you say it, what you say, and to who you say it. Especially in a correctional facility, carries a lot of weight. And what I was trying to do was distinguish myself and separate myself from everybody else. So when I had a serious issue, and I take it to the superintendent or one of the deputies, they knew it was serious. And in able to do that, you had to learn language. You cannot approach a superintendent with like, yo, I need this. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So I used to read all these books and just get the language and copy, and some of the books that I had to send back to the library, I can say that now. And I saw the page was interested, I could just rip it off. I'm keeping this page here. This is my page. And some of the guys used to see me in the blog and be like, yo, bro, stop writing in the books. I used to highlight the books and leave my comments. They'd be like, bro, we know it's you. You're the last one that signed the book out. So, but it's good. It's good because me learning how to read and write, me being involved with books, perhaps saved someone's life. It saved someone's life. Yes.
Wow. Well, I think that is an absolutely beautiful note. Thank you so much, all of us, for being here. I'm sure we'll hang out for a few minutes if people have individual questions. But
I live down the block.
all right, folks. Thank you all for joining us. Pornography and then sexual disability.
So sexual disability is the one that you were looking at? So it is cross-listed.
But I wanted to give you this just because it's a little thing, but I just kind of fiddle with it. It's a nice
No,
touch.
thank you. I'm okay.
Yeah. I made it while you were talking to help me pay attention, and I just,
man, thank
as
you.
a thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Means a lot.